Good morning, my friends, and welcome to today's training in reclaiming ourselves from codependency. I'm Marshall Burtcher, and I help survivors of narcissistic abuse discover and create happiness after the abuse, after the codependency that they developed to survive that. In three phases rather, right? Help them heal the trauma bond, help them discover who they are, and help them create happy relationships. Because really, that's the goal: is to have yourself back and to be able to live a life that you really enjoy and that you're happy with. All right, before we get started, I need to share this out to the community. The community is Safe Haven here on Facebook, on the internet, where you can find support, guidance, community shelter, and find out you're not alone and you're not crazy in your journey and in the things that you've experienced in your world. The link is above on Facebook. It's below on YouTube. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. If you're on Instagram, go to my bio, hit the link there, and you can join the community from there. I'm going to get that shared out right now. Just gonna let the thingies do the thingies. So here we go. Yep. And if you're looking for it, like you're going to search for it as Thriving Beyond Codependency. So today things want to be slow, which is cool. Slowness is fun. Let's see, share to the group. Oh, there it is. There, boom. Okay. It's lovely to see you all. So today we're going to talk about reclaiming or ending emotional perfectionism. So, in abuse and neglect, we are taught that certain emotions are allowed and certain emotions are not allowed. We are taught that we should have the happy feelings, we shouldn't have the negative feelings, for instance. We shouldn't have, fundamentally, the rule you probably noticed is any emotion that burdens the other person in some way or they perceive as a burden in some way is the no emotion. So it can be joy about what you want, it can be joy about something else, because that takes attention from them or it interrupts their space. It could be being upset, depressed, lonely, bored, sad, whatever. They don't want you to feel it because they don't want you they don't want to have to manage or take care of you. They don't want to contribute that way. Remember that the goal, especially in a narcissistic system, is to provide supply. That's your role. You exist to provide supply for them. They don't exist to give you anything. You exist for them. It's the object, or what's called benefit-centered relating. And what this does is it teaches us this concept I call emotional perfectionism, where I should feel this and I should not feel that. So when we feel the thing we shouldn't feel, what happens is we move into a form of resistance or attachment. We collapse or contract around it and try to force that emotion away. We try to get rid of it. We try to eliminate it. I distinctly remember, as I was growing up, trying to eliminate emotions from my body. Now, the trick with emotions is they all run on the same channel. Think of it like a freeway. So all the cars go on the freeway to go to the place. There is just one freeway and it takes you to the place. Well, in this instance, the freeway collects emotions and then brings them to the place, which is our awareness. If you cut off the freeway, you cut off all the emotions because all emotions use the same freeway. So by trying to cut off one emotion, you start to cut off access to other emotions. Another key here, and the more important factor here in this, is that your emotions are informing you about your experience. They're informing you about how your needs are being met or unmet, how your boundaries are being violated or respected. They're informing you about your well-being. And so when you start to cut off emotional access to yourself because they're being violent to you, so you do this in order to survive fawn freeze response, you're losing access to your own wisdom. So we've got to end the perfectionism and start restoring our sense of validity, legitimacy, and realness. And that's that might sound a little weird or it might really resonate. For me, I started getting access back to my emotions and giving them space to be. My realness returned. The fact that I exist, I matter, I take up space. And what I am feeling right now matters. It's important. It's important despite what the other person might say or think, because their opinion doesn't define reality. It defines their perspective, but it doesn't define anything about what's going on in me unless I'm internalizing their perspective as my own internal truth. So if I'm feeling angry or upset or sad or lonely, those are valid feelings. They're real, they're legitimate. Those don't necessarily justify me in doing something to get them met that would harm someone else. Like, that's what, people who are abusive, they feel justified, they feel entitled to take that pain and displace it on someone else. That's how abuse works. Now, people who are being triggered, and you're going through a triggering or activating event, you're just having a moment of you're exceeding your capacity and it's spreading on to other people. We still have to own that. As depending on what that looks like. Most of the time, triggers though they're not violent, right? They're actually a constriction around self, and we withdraw from interaction with triggers. So it's important to, I like to denote or delineate between those two things so we can be more aware of what's going on. I'm aware of the transmission difficulties. The internet technology this week has been a gem. So I'll be posting the recorded version, which won't have any interruptions, once it's up on YouTube. So how do we go around ending emotional perfectionism? First, we need to restore safety. And this is the big fundamental we all need. Safety. We need to feel safe in 3 specific areas in our world. So that's 3 areas. First, physically, we need to have physical safety. We have to have a physical shelter which we feel secure in and we have some power, influence, and control over. Okay? So that allows us to have a foundation to collapse within. So if I'm in a safe, secure physical environment, then my emotions can emerge and I can begin to move through them, which leads to step 2, emotional and mental safety. Do I feel safe enough, capable enough to access my emotions? Do I have skills and am I practiced in those skills and tools to allow myself to move through what I feel? Or do I need assistance? And this is where therapy courses, trainings come in. This is where, hey, I need a community to hold me while I go through this. A community can be 1 person, it can be 1,200 people. It can just, but it's a place where you can find some co-regulation and connect with what you need so that you have a safe emotional space in which to access your emotions and move through them. The third thing we need then is relational safety. And this is where we can find where we have people we can lean on that will respect what we share, that they value the importance of our emotions and that they allow them to be. They're not there trying to fix it. They're not gaslighting it, telling us we shouldn't feel that way. They're not ignoring or denying what we feel. Instead, they're just receiving it. They're like, yeah, well, I see why you'd feel that way. That's totally understandable. I'm just holding space with you. I'm just listening. I am here with you. We need those 3 things before we can begin to exit more of this emotional perfectionism. So, again, the 3 things are physical safety, emotional safety, relational safety. And relational safety applies to you too. Am I willing to be safe with myself? So, one of the things we tend to do with emotion is judge it and condemn it. This is where the perfectionism element is. So when an emotion shows up in me, I still have that reflex. It's like, judge the emotion, get rid of the emotion. I hold space with that. I don't resist it. I don't attach to it. I don't judge it. I just hold a space with it and allow it to be. Because it's just a thought. It's just a programmed thought. It's not a fact, truth, or reality. It's just a thought. What that empowers me to do is have more space than to access the emotion that's being judged. And that can be a real wrestle because that can feel fairly painful. But it's important to give it that opportunity and lean into it. So some practical tools I use to help my students, clients, and myself facilitate this kind of thing. First one starts with the Be Calm tool set. This teaches us how to regulate our nervous system, teaches us how to calm ourselves so that we can have more emotional capacity to access what we're receiving. Second step after that is to begin a process or practice called holding space. That's also part of the Be Calm tool sets, tool number 6. That allows you, this trains you to allow yourself to feel and receive whatever's showing up and allow it just to do what it does. That's the thing with emotions. We don't have to control them internally. We need to hold space with them, and then they are going to bring a wisdom out in us that helps us understand what we need, what we want, how we need it, how we want it. It gets into the what, how, and who of our life and our relationships. So holding space is the practice which facilitates the release of this perfectionism, which leads to number 3, the SAR practice. And that's also free. It's not part of Be Calm yet. It will be in the future, but you can go to sar.freetheself.com and get it there. The links for Be Calm and SAR are above on Facebook, below on YouTube. And if you're on Instagram, go to my bio and click the link there, and you get access to them there. SAR practice, it stands for Somatic Awareness and Release. It is a leaning into the emotion, allowing it to move, and discovering what else comes up as we do that. It's teaching you a practice or a technique called somatic listening, allowing yourself to hear yourself emotionally. This gets us out of the perfectionism. This gets us out of trying to control and shape and direct our emotions, and gets us into a flow with them so that we're able to understand what we need, what we're feeling, what's going on for us. Because how else are we going to know if we need something, if a boundary's been crossed, if we need to make a change? How else are we going to know what we really want in our world if we're not paying attention to our body and we're not attuned to the body self and understanding its feedback and its information? Further, if you're going to do any kind of trauma work, this is necessary. You have to be able to access the experience in the body and allow it to decompress, thaw, decompress, and discharge in its own way. So these tools prep you for any kind of trauma therapy that you may be doing in your world. Guys, this is how we start to end that emotional perfectionism. So the next thing we got to do is we got to endorse our emotions and their validity, their legitimacy, and their importance. And this is a practice of approving of what you feel. So let's say you're feeling dread. Well, of course you're feeling dread. Look at what you've been through. You're getting ready for a date and you're having a lot of anxiety. Well, of course, dating is kind of a scary thing, right? It's a delicate process. Well, of course I'm feeling that. I'm going to let that be there. That's legitimization. It's endorsing the emotion and its validity for the context it's showing up in, even if it doesn't seem to make sense. Because a lot of times the emotion is there because the brain has equated something in the environment with a circumstance with something in the past, and it's just trying to protect you. This gets us out of our reactivity, and it gets us more into a proactive relationship, proactive understanding of what works for us. And it helps us move through them faster, and it helps us make better choices, and be more aligned with our value, our voice, our vision, with who we are. So guys, my friends, go out there, play with this, experiment with it. The tools are linked above on Facebook, below on YouTube. They are all free. Go in there. Use this to empower you to become more available to what you actually feel, and to see that you do not have to show up a certain way to be lovable. Instead, all of you, your wholeness, is lovable. And the real journey there is just discovering and choosing people who respect that in themselves, because then they will respect it in you. Remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. Keep yourselves safe out there, and I will see you in our next training video.